I hereby call to order this meeting of the Strategic Housing Finance Corporation of Travis County, Texas. Today is March 28th, and it is, according to my watch, 11:36 a.m. The first order of business is the call to order, roll call, confirmation of quorum.
President Julio Gonzalez Altamirano.
Present.
Vice President Jan Winning.
Present.
Director Delete Webb Becker.
Here, present.
Director Kanish Prince.
Here.
Director Lisa Reams.
Excellent. We will move now to public forum, citizen communication. Are there any individuals signed up to testify?
Yes, Gabby Garcia.
Okay. Ms. Garcia.
Where's my dog? I think she needs to share. And the microphone.
Need a chair?
I'm going.
Director Wedding is concerned about the camera.
Kevin, when he points it at the speaker for the technical.
Ms. Garcia, are you ready?
Ready.
Woo, moving it up. All right, so we're going to start. 3 minutes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Gabby Garcia. I'm an organizer with BASTA, and I've worked with the neighbors at Rosemont Tenant Association for a few years. This morning, I'm testifying to give a report back on the tenant on the Rosemont Reinvestment Program and tenant feedback on how that money should be used. I think that both tenants and SHFC have been in agreement that those funds should go directly to affected tenants. As an acknowledgement of everything that they went through, obviously they can't be made fully whole, but just to acknowledge that they went through. So leaders who were from steering committee met last week with myself and Ms. Reams. And after a lot of conversation, tenants came up with a few parameters. I won't go into specific detail, but just an overview. So for eligibility, they're recommending that anyone who lived at Rosemont from when Winter Storm Fury happened to when Hayden Blake purchased the property in May should qualify, and they also made recommendations on amounts and who should get how much. And then finally, they had ideas on if there's additional funds, because we anticipate that we won't be able to find everybody. So there may be money left over, and so if there is, they would like for some of it to be used to hire an independent investigator. We talked about that a lot before, but somebody to find out what happened at Rosemont, and this is important in terms of accountability. It'll come a long way, but still, what happened there needs to be looked into in order to make sure that these mistakes aren't repeated. And then finally, if there's still additional money after that, then the idea was to allow tenants who suffer more severely to apply, because not everyone was affected equally, right? And so in the first parameter that they have, it's like, if you were there between this time, but we know that some people had hospital bills, some people lost their jobs, some people had all of their furniture down in Trumbull. So the degrees of harm vary, and so if there's any money left over, having some way for people to tell their story and apply, and that's kind of as far as we got with that. I will send the board more detailed notes on all of this, and we just want to let you know that both BASTA and the tenants are really open to helping you all through this. It's going to be really hard to find those people, and we have some of it. We don't have all of the information, but we want to be there to help and make sure that it's successful and that we can find as many people as we can. Thank you.
Anybody else in this speak?
Suzanne.
You are.
It's on.
Ms. Medlow, you have 3 minutes.
Suzanne Schwertner with the Housing Authority of the City of Austin. And just a note, I just got a text that the Zoom audio is very scrambled. I'm here representing the Housing Authority. We have a very good relationship and have been meeting with the City of Austin, Travis County, the Housing Authority, to meet and discuss any new deals, purchases, and developments that are happening within the City of Austin. We did notice quite a few on this agenda kind of concerned us and our partners at the city. And we would like to extend the invitation for strategic to join those meetings so that you know, we can make the best decisions in the city of Austin. We are approached, and there are a couple of deals that we turned down because we feel that the affordability was already there without adding a tax exemption in, and we want to be very cognizant of what we do with our tax exemptions. So I know that Michael Gerber, my CEO, has already reached out to Director Gray, so if we can continue those conversations, we would really, really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we ask a question on that? For the meetings you're talking about? For the state, what are the state that they're talking about?
The city of Austin and Travis County Housing Authority, as well as the Housing Authority of the city of Austin. And they vary according to, you know, our schedules to make sure it's at least once a month.
Is it the Travis County also?
Yes, Travis County Housing Authority.
Represents the housing authority of this county.
I believe Patrick Halbert does.
What is their public benefit ratio for their calculations? Was of
Do you have any information on?
have any firms that you share with us that you feel are appropriate?
We can discuss that in the meetings.
Mr. McGrath,
Yes, he did.
be aware that this is a shady.
Did the Curtis County Housing Facilities Corporation participate in meetings?
I don't know.
So our terms and our policy reflect pointers, and our pointers were, as you know, the Travis County Court. And so our terms and approach are based on those of the Travis County Finance Corporation. It might be useful.
We can definitely broaden that.
Yes, because I think we are responsive to the court, and the court has a created form. And the created form seeks to replicate that. And so if we're going to begin to have multi-party discussions, it's also important that given the membership participates in those discussions, that if we're going to bind ourselves to a standard, all of them follow.
Right. And that's, you know, mainly we're concerned about what happens within the city of Austin, the city limits. And that's something that's discussed in those meetings. So I would just encourage you to, you know, dialogue with Michael Gerber, our CEO. Because he does, is at those meetings.
Yeah. I'm also very interested in learning more about, as you know, the terms that the HC employs and its workforce deals. And we want to make sure that we're benchmarking ourselves to those terms.
And I'm sure Michael Gerber can address that in those meetings.
However, we do not have a policy directive. I've never been told to focus outside of the city of Austin. As you know, when we do tax abatements, the entities that are affected all operate within the city of Austin, such as ACC and the county itself. So we feel an obligation to also serve Austin. We just want to make sure that that's understood.
We are just proposing an open dialogue at this point. So if y'all are open to that, we would definitely appreciate it. I think we are just looking out for the city, you know, for the Austin city limits, for any developments that come up in the city, and to be cognizant of what's going on and what our tax exemptions are going towards.
Well, we feel very confident that we share those values, that our standards and team are rigorous. And so we look forward to bringing our rigor and value set to those discussions. We also hope that everybody will be held to the same standard.
Yeah, sounds like we're all on the same page. I think if we could continue that conversation, we would be very.
I think it's possible to be fruitful, help accelerate the preservation and increase of affordable housing in Travis County.
That's what we're looking for. Just reviewing the large number of developments that have come in. there a particular one that's our issue?
Well,
We just noticed a high number of projects that are being brought in the ones that are in the city of Austin. So our agenda is public, anyone that has access to it. But I just want to get clarification that there is a problem with something on our agenda today. Not a problem, we're here requesting that we all collaborate as agencies that are authorized to give tax exemptions. And again, here.
Thanks again for coming today, and I speak on behalf of at least the executive team, myself and the president, as well as the rest of the directors, that we've been interested in some time in a more collaborative approach, and to find lanes, if you will, and open discussions. So on those notes, I think we share a lot of common ground here. But I share Director Weber's concern. If there's something on the agenda that's triggered this, it'd be helpful to know what that is.
It's just triggering a larger conversation to bring y'all into the mix so that we can, have discussions. And just like we welcomed you at our board meeting.
Yes. You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah. So.
I guess I'm just trying to explain. I think some of the concern you're here is our body has been inactive in using its strength for Congress, not because we didn't recognize the agency around expanding the supply of reservation for housing, but because of other reasons. And so we would not want to see actual progress that we are making in this new iteration of ourselves undone due to machinations that have nothing to do with the quality of our analysis. And so we want to be clear that if we are being asked to be part of the conversation, it is aligned with the urgency we feel and the energy we feel around being active and using purpose, which states are constrained, and they're not constrained by vertical corporations, to feel more that making a seal should have started long ago. And so, if we are going to be brought in as equal partners, which we should, because our powers are the same as your powers, right, as the other united force, and actually how you be, then we're going to have a conversation. But if we're being brought to be reprimanded for
Anybody, I came here to extend the invitation. Okay, then I apologize for that. I cannot come in here to be controversial, to point fingers, being asking for my seat and to join our conversations. Because as y'all want the same thing we do, we want to make sure that tax exemptions are preserved, because I'm sure you're all aware of the legislation that came into effect last year. We want to make sure that the tax exemptions are still around so everybody can do affordable housing. And we want the best for the city of Austin. And that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to be invitational. I'm not here to be dressed down for anything. I'm here to extend an invitation for y'all to come to the table just like the other members, and for us to have a fruitful conversation about affordable housing.
If I could, sorry.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being here today. I'm sure Mike would have been here if he would have. On short notice, but I think part of what we're here is a bit of surprise, because this was only raised literally minutes before our meeting. And so I have known Mike for many years, known Mandy for many years, we've absolutely in dialogue. But I think to the president's point, we bring a sense of urgency. The board asked me to sheet on meals in December. free, so these deals are being analyzed. Always happy to talk with our partners about whether and how that analysis meets the public good, at the greatest degree possible. And so I will be in touch with Mike, likely as soon as I walk out the store, and we will convene those conversations.
I'm going to see, like, and I want to say one more thing. I have great respect and admiration for your particular skill set and work at AHC, through you in particular. I think some of the emotion you are hearing has to do with our past and the way that this has been presented to us, as well as the implication that we are not committed to rigor and the same values. But I think you're understanding that we have alignment about the ultimate goal, and I think we hear it as an invitation to collaborate. So I want to say, while the tone has not been as friendly as we only have wanted, I have very optimism that for you will be able to put in place a process that makes you feel comfortable with how we're doing things, as well as improve some of your things. And also you can convey that this entity and this directorship does the ministry and the some of the strings of potential players involved. So I want to make sure that we are actually having a conversation in good faith. I believe you want to have a conversation in good faith. I think we want to have a conversation.
We want the best for the city of Austin to continue to grow and to add affordable housing units so that we can deal with this crisis together.
Thank you so much, Rita. Are there any other individuals who speak to us? Thank you. So we will move. I guess I did that. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Was there a desire to change any part of the minutes? Can we incorporate a motion to approve?
I said move. Second.
So whatever, all those in favor? Opposed? We will now move to executive record report, which is 6.
Welcome everyone to our reports board meeting. The first one to talk about, I think, is Easter time when they think about renewal. And that is apt for us. In one process, we are at a milestone as an organization in terms of establishing fully independent operations. As of Sunday, Power and Debbie linked up the employees of SHFC. So I want to point out there's a new face here that some of you may not recognize in the Bell Department. He's joined us as a basis, helping us with this transition. She has been incredibly critical in moving us forward, particularly in terms of transition of financial systems. Why don't you let me introduce yourself? It was
Nice to meet you all. I recently left the city of Austin after 13 years there, working in homelessness and contracts for social services. Certainly touches on affordable housing, and really excited about the opportunities and work ahead for Spotty and for the communities, the city and the county, and everyone that is within that. So nice to meet you all, and looking forward to
where we are on staffing. The good news is we have on that, which means we are active positions to be staffing plans out the team staff perspective. But we validated it principally, but everyone on the team has been pitching in. We, of course, have our payroll consultant have that baseline suite of benefits for staff. In the storm of getting all of that in place, have a third party keeping and fee accountant now online, well as overseeing that transition. I will say that supervisor and HATSI staff have been very accommodating and helpful as we do that. We know it won't be 100% fee, be working together for the coming weeks. And of course, it's been helping us with technology. The other piece, so as a staff systems in space, I have a piece that I'm taking today on office space, which I'm going to be sharing with you very soon. And there have been days not yet set, staff will be working from home for a few days. And once we get in, partners to work to do getting space ready and getting furnished. So we manage this. So it's very exciting having all of you for support of patient stress time. So a lot of work that is fundamental to having the infrastructure in place to do something, which is the production of housing. So having said that, I mean, we of course we've started a bit already about pipeline. We continue to talk with developers, looking at probably in the next couple of weeks, we've actually reached out to one of the vendors that we'll be working with as part of our portfolio review. That may be a team that we put together, but as we begin to solidify our day-to-day operations, we're going to look into that. As you may recall, let's do a fairly comprehensive look at the existing portfolio in terms of physical condition, clients, how the property is operating, understanding what the revenue projections and sensitivities are over time. You have a couple of other reports in the board book. We did close a transaction just a few days ago. It was Blue Ridge, which was the project we approved last board meeting. And so we now have closed that transaction. That was a legacy transaction and originally been with the POC. You hear a little bit, you heard already from Gavin, thank you on tenant investment. We have begun part of due diligence process of gathering information, working among other folks. The third party firm that helped with relocation, who has a lot of data that they're willing to share with us. And so there's been some form of the board convened, Directors Prince and Lennox, along with Director Reeves, to work through that planning. They may wish to touch on that later if time allows. Finally, I just wanted to touch on a few calendar items. You received communication from President Altamirano probably a couple of weeks ago that we were moving to a 2 times a month meeting cadence, which allows us to have one meeting like today that is mostly focused on is action items and therefore principally would be project deals. And then a second work session which will allow us to dig in deeper to both some of the board development areas that have been identified as priorities and some of the deeper policy discussions that help us continue to vet our terms, our ways of doing business to make sure that we're bringing most value. So, there we had originally, I think a date had been thrown out as possibly April 10th.
11th.
Initially April 10th, we couldn't find a space for April 10th, and so we have potential space for April 11th. That is soon, and so we want to check in with board members about whether that is feasible, or if we need to push it back a little bit, and then I think we'll just have to see what the ripple effects are on our ongoing board calendar.
What time would we start on the 11th?
We had tentatively said something like 11 to 2, so that we would serve lunch in the middle, but that is not set in stone.
Does anybody have objections to that as the time? Have you look at your calendar?
Works for me.
No objection there? An objection here, another objection there?
I got the 11th.
Okay, can't do the 11th.
I I could possibly rearrange some things. I'm wondering if you could pull in an email fashion.
Happy to do that.
Maybe we can capture the lead as well, if there's some other options. Do you have a second option to present today?
No, because I think we'll need to, as we identify potential dates, we'll need to do the dance someday soon. We'll be able to do it at the office. I don't think we'll be ready in 2 weeks. But so I think we find a date and then we will find a space. We'll figure it out. So yes, I will be happy to send out an email poll on that front. I wanted to let people know, if you're not already aware, that there is a Housing Works conference on April 5th, which is next Friday, if I'm not mistaken. If you are interested, and feel free to reach out, we're happy to email the link, and we can still register. SHFC is happy to cover the registration fee for you. And then finally, the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies has its annual conference in Las Vegas in May, from May 1st to 4th. So please reach out. We have we've registered but have not started travel plans yet. And so again, if some number of board members feel like it would be fruitful for you to spend time with your national peers, we would be happy to. And that's all I have. DC. Thank you for reminding me. So also last week I did have the opportunity to travel to DC to headquarters, where HUD hosted a couple of panels on social housing sort of writ large, and really a discussion of some variety of novel ways some communities are approaching this issue, looking at mixed income housing that the public entity continues to hold some ownership of, and really just what kind of other financing mechanisms we can use. And so I think that is part of what we want to be aggressive in thinking about how we address this crisis while being rigorous. And so, in particular, a couple of the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission presented. They utilized some construction financing model that then they roll over and take out with bond permanent financing. So a variety of models that were really interesting, and just want to extend a thank you to Executive Committee in particular for urging me to make the trip last week.
Is there anybody else from Central Texas there?
No. But not least not that I recognize. Sorry.
That is my view of the situation, that we are the leaders in terms of interest so far in this important topic in emerging mode. Anything else for the executive director from our supervisor, Director Winning?
I just want to extend first a heartfelt welcome to Violet. Our interim executive director has been at warp speed to accomplish all the things she just reported on. It has been a mountain of work, and I'm so glad that she started to build up a staff. And I just want to send our appreciation to you, Diana, for your leadership. It's been refreshing, inspiring, and you're so facile.
Just a question about the transition. I don't see, do I need to set up a new boardable account? So that, because I don't see today's, I still see a HATC,
Yeah. We do have a new boardable account. We'll get you the link and details after.
just that's how I get it.
The website.
Go ahead.
And this will be news to staff as well. So one of the things we're talking about, and I think this is, we have the luxury and the challenge of looking at all of our systems at once, right? And so one of the, we want to keep this as simple as possible, meet the needs of the board, as well as, transparency with the public when posting. So right now, we're posting in boardables. We're also in parallel posting to the website and at the county. And so we will need to continue to post at the county, but one suggestion that has been brought up is, do we really need boardables? If we just post the materials on the public website,
then everybody is going to the same place to get it. So there may be some downsides to that or functionality that's been utilized previously in portables, but so far, the reaction I have gotten and maybe anticipate is, do we get to interact with one less system? That would be okay.
And so the proposal I have made is, Wordle can go away, because now we all have Microsoft 365 licenses. We put everything on the website.
No, I see it, I just saw it there, I just didn't realize it was there, thank you.
We put everything on the website now, but no, you wouldn't know that everything is catching up this month too, anyway. We put everything on the website anyway, so that Miss Honeycutt has less things to put up. The partners that, for example, HACA can see everything as fast as we see it, as well as, stakeholders like Basta, the public can see it, one less vendor to pay, everything that we're proposing works. We're gonna figure out. It's also one less credential you have to worry about. And we now have different vendors that we provide all the functionality. So you may want to get a new account, but I would tell you that I personally don't think we need to continue using it.
Oh, I agree, this is great.
I will just say, if we can stick with this system, there's no kinks that we can't get over, this works great for me, and I also think it's better for facing outward to the public.
Agreed.
Our email addresses match our website, that is critical in business. This is a wonderful process.
Yeah, can I just say, I really appreciate the transparency, I always thought it was odd that the board packet was not.
Public, yes.
So, thank you.
Yes. And it can lead to some miscommunications potentially, so better that be out there faster. Director Wayne.
Yeah, just on that website where you are with the board meetings, you'll notice there's a false statement about our meetings being the first Thursday of every month. So we're still cleaning stuff up. Our executive director can speak to this, and there's work being done to, shall we say, polish up and maybe improve some of our outwardly smooth images through communications and other hirings that might be pending. I don't know if you want to touch on that. So it's kind of blog to say nothing when you go to that website right now. I kept thinking I was at the wrong website, so I never used it, but I think that's going to change.
Let's move to action items, if there's nothing else. And so in the action agenda, we are going to start with Resolution SHFC 2024-11 staff. You want to tell us a little bit about the background on this?
Sure. Yes, so this is, as part of our transition process, of course, we are transitioning access to and control of all of our financial accounts, which are include a pooled investment account that is managed by Texas Municipal League. And so rather than just internally being able to do it and having board president sign it, et cetera, they require a resolution. So that is what you see. This is the form of the resolution that they require. And we do have, so Debbie, I don't know that it's critical, but we do have it filled out. So what it authorizes is me and President Altamirano, so that we have two people who are authorized signatories or to transact on that account.
And why would we transact on this account?
Well, thank you. So we maintain relatively modest balances in our cash bank
account. Obviously, we prefer to have better returns, and so we manage, as much cash as we anticipate needing in that account, and then tend to move money into and sometimes out of this account as needed.
And seeing no further questions, it would be appropriate to make a motion to adopt this resolution. Director Weber, is there a second? Director Prince, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries unanimously. Why don't we now do the collective presentation on the different transactions we're contemplating, and then move through them and take action on them?
So you would like to present on all of them and then take action one by one?
Let's start with the first one, and let's see how it goes.
Fair enough.
And then,
Diana, do you want the PowerPoint pulled up?
Yes, please. So as Debbie is pulling that up, I do want to speak to the items on the agenda. So items B through I, we are all real estate transaction related resolutions that are on the agenda. However, we elected some days ago to pull items E, F, and G from agenda. It was too late to change the formal agenda, but we are not bringing those to the board today. So effectively, we are looking at, sorry, my page just changed. Loyola Flats and Runberg Flats, which are two bond inducements for 4% tax credit deals. And separately, Tech Bridge 2, that's number D, and North Lamar, 10601 North Lamar, which are two workforce projects. And then finally, we'll be having a conversation and potential action by the board on two projects where the existing developer operator partner is contemplating potentially selling their interest. So really sort of three tranches. So we'll move through them and see how it goes.
And just to clarify, note for those who may be watching at home or joining us who aren't typically here, during the transition period, the chair has said, put items that we're going to discuss in committee, but may not take action on the agenda to give us a chance to act with agility. So during the transition period, the fact that they may be put on the agenda does not necessarily mean that adoption is likely. And so Director Gray has clarified why I said, yes, let's put them on the agenda because they may be ready. They are not ready, they may never be ready. But that is why we notified them so that in the event we were going to take action, we were following the law. And with that little important wrinkle clarified, that may come up again during our transition period, let's proceed to the presentation.
Excellent. So we will first talk about Loyola Flats. Loyola Flats is, as I mentioned, a 4% tax credit project. This is essentially all of the currently operational SHFC projects are these kind of deals. So they combine bonds issued by Strategic with tax credits which are accessed through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. Those tax credits eventually end up often giving them about 30% of the money they need to do the deal, just to give you a sense. So we say tax credits, what it means in the end is capital for the deal, and then we're issuing debt. So we'll go ahead. This project is at near Loyola and Decker Lane in northeast Austin. It is near the confluence of 183, not confluence, but sort of bound by 183 on the west, 290 to the north, SH 130 to the east, and then literally Loyola to the south, which is the address here is a Decker Lake address that is at the corner of Loyola and Decker. So if you can go to the next slide, oh, you're there, sorry. So I'm doing this with my glasses off so that I can read the paper in front of me. Sometimes it causes confusion for me and everyone else. So I think that one of the interesting things about this location is that it's, while it is a little bit further removed from the central business district that has very good connectivity to central Austin, to Pflugerville, to Manor, south on 130 to 71. And to the airport for that matter. So the site itself, the red you see here is the site. It is about 10 acres. It sits due east of the orange area you see there, which is Colony Park, city-owned property, 200 plus acres, slated for significant redevelopment over the coming years with planned Green Line access there. So while this will, President Altamirano may know the exact desired location of that station. I do not, but we are very close to it in this neighborhood. It is also quite close to Walter Long Park, which is as you continue along Loyola to the east. Next slide. This is a new construction project. The image you see here is the sort of conceptual site plan. 208 units, including units 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. So unusually accommodating for larger families, which is a challenge that we often see in this market. Has amenities that are typical for tax credit projects, so a variety of amenities for residents. The development partner is Elmington Affordable, with whom we have had 4 previous transactions. Some of, I believe, Wild Horse is operational, Daffin and Jaeger are under construction, and Blue Ridge is the one that we just closed in the last 2 weeks. This is, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but this is an initial inducement. So this is very early signaling from the board that they're interested in moving forward with this transaction.
And because of that time is not longer, we would anticipate, or the developer anticipates, fall 2024 bond reservation subsequent to applying to the bond review board, closing the transaction in January of 2025, and hopefully occupancy.
What is occupancy? That's when it's like a personal zoning in the room. Okay, all right.
That, yes, it's a 2-year construction.
Yeah, they're thinking it's 24 months out.
Yeah.
Super duper.
All right, so in terms of affordability, one of the interesting things I think about this project is that the vast majority of our 4% tax credit deals are all 60% AMI, which is good. It provides affordability to at a particular level. That's quite standard for 4% tax credit deals. You can also do something called income averaging, where you spread the units out a little bit more in terms of income. And they've done that with the plans for this project, so that 20% of the units will be at 50% AMI. So we're getting to a deeper affordability level there. About 60 at 60%, and then 20% at 70% AMI. So a little more diversity of income in the mix. And again, the unit size mix. So in terms of what is being asked today, again, is a bond inducement. And we do have legal counsel here, of course, to answer any questions you have about that. But the bond inducement fundamentally allows the developer to go to the bond review board to make application. They can't do that until they have inducement. Once they have a bond reservation, which again they are hoping would be fall of this year, then they can apply for tax credits. And when that happens, at that point we would move forward. So this would come back to the board, likely both for the MOU and then for the final transaction approval. Having said that, staff recommends approval of the bonds inducement resolution for flats, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about the spend?
My sole question is the PowerPoint in the board guide?
It's on the website.
Okay.
It's a separate file on the website.
Oh, board meetings, not so much, seriously.
It's amazing. It's so easy, you missed it.
It's kind of good. But are there any additional questions?
So if you'd like, I'm happy to talk about Runberg Flats, which is a very similar project.
You were for Ms. Gray. You were correct. Let's do them.
Okay. Fair
I
enough.
don't know what it is. I don't know why that was okay. I think because I went to the whole presentation, I was so stressed. I was like, let's just get through it and do it all. But let's do it this way. It's much better and should be our standard practice. Thank you. Any other questions about Runberg Flats? So as I always say, with the tax credit deals, there are significant safeguards. So these are terms, and a partner we know, these are our easy decisions in the scheme of things. If there are no other questions, then a motion to approve this resolution is appropriate.
I'll move to approve the resolution on
I
the
second.
last.
Director Weber, Director Winning, all those in favor say aye. Any abstentions? No. Any nays? No. The matter carries unanimously. We are now going to do our next transaction, and it is Rumberg Flats.
Indeed. Yes, Runberg Flats is another project by the same developer partner, Elmington Affordable. The address is 204 East Runberg. That is between 35 and Lamar on Runberg. It will be essentially adjacent to Guerrero Elementary. So, which sits back, it has a Runberg address that sits back from the road. And so the parcel abuts it. It is about a half mile to the Runberg and Lamar intersection, which has an HEB. It has 2 community care clinics. One is a general clinic, the other is a pediatric clinic through affiliated Carousel Pediatrics, which are part of the community care network now. There's a library essentially at that intersection, as well as a pharmacy. And, fairly robust transportation, of course, along. So let's go to the next slide. So this project is 205 units. It has a similar mix of 1 to 4 bedrooms. And really, everything else here is pretty much the same. The amenities are very similar, again, typical for tax credit projects. Community room, swimming pool, porch, fitness center, etc. And we're looking at this stage, a projected timeline which is the same as the timeline that we described. This project again also uses an income averaging approach, so that we have some 20% units, so that's by my count just over 40 units at 50% AMI. I think that's really important because it is an income level that's very difficult to get to without other explicit subsidy in a project. So I'm happy to see this as part of our portfolio. And this is identically a bond inducement only, allowing the developer to move forward to make application to the bond review board if that is successful, or when, to apply for tax credits. And we would come back to the board both for the MOU and for the eventual transaction.
Would we typically learn whether the city of Austin has already looked at something like this, or whether HACA has decided that it didn't meet its criteria? Would that be something that we would learn as part of your presentation?
So, if I knew it, I don't know. I think that it's important probably for us to be able to represent to you that we have vetted the deals and why we think the deal fits our criteria. So board sets policy with our support. And I think the other piece that's important is that a deal that goes to one partner and does not move forward, deals change all the time. Deal terms and their profile, etc. So always happy, I think, to share any concerns or risks that have been identified. I would not typically say so-and-so looked at this and declined. But
Because in my own words, you wouldn't know that first, right? Second, because we have given you our own terms that we trust that you are following.
correct.
And third, just because it says Runberg on our agenda does not mean it is the same. If HACA had considered it, that it was even the same. So saying that, HACA has already decided that something that's on our agenda didn't have enough public benefit, that doesn't mean that what's on our agenda even looks like what was presented.
We are responsible, I think, for providing you the analysis of the facts as they are presented to us. And anyone who's in this business knows those facts change as the deal evolves. Again, we will certainly engage with our partners in this, in this space And I expect our terms to be something that we are constantly looking at to get the most value out of. But you are correct. We are going to share with you how these deals fit the profile of the terms and priorities that the board has set.
And I just want to add one thing to that answer, because this predates you joining us, Ms. Gray. So if you recall, we had a tax credit transaction we were in the pipeline for. And you said, hey, what about 30 MI? Is that possible? At the direction of our appointers, acting with fidelity to that, because our appointers are not city council, or in the case of Papa, the mayor. And so we asked, and whether it was because of that, or because they were concerned about our capacity as an entity, or any number of items and credit reasons, it went away. And so one of the key elements in there is the developer who is taking the risk ultimately makes a decision about who they want to partner with. And we have repeatedly had a conversation of, if we want to be at volume and at scale, we have to thread the needle between being the best development experience while preserving and protecting the taxpayers and the mission. So on the tax credit deals, the interesting thing is, there is, as we understand it, because this has been the policy discussion we've had, dramatic convergence in terms and developer experience. The developer is probably making not relationship-based decision, but something close to that in all likelihood. We have heard an invitation to have better communication. As you know, because you were there, in the past we have asked to have different entities that should have access at the table talk to us, and they have skipped over the opportunity to talk to us. But in this new era, I am optimistic that we will get more invitations and more engagement. As it pertains to tax credit deals, which is just another one of those, I think that the amount of variance is much more constrained. And so I don't think these will be a source of issue, of significant issues, but we may discover otherwise. Finally, we have talked about at our business model palooza in May or June to revisit our tax credit terms so that they become better aligned with the sort of rigor and sophistication and urgency we've been applying to our workforce terms, because we have been operating with the legacy, what does the county do? That's kind of what we're going to do. We don't want to be an outlier. If we have relationships, we're going to use them. These are tax credit deals, so there's a lot of other TVCA safeguards. But we might want to revisit that and become either more compelling or less compelling, depending on what we decide. But that is a discussion that we are on cue to have to revisit, because we've never had a very in-depth one. We've just said, let's converge with other entities and not be an outlier. Any other questions on this? No. Motion to approve would be appropriate. Made by Director Weber and seconded by Director Prince. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Matter carries unanimously. For our next presentation, and now we are moving to workforce deals. So now is where we start to want to make sure we are exercising our best judgment. But these are ones that the staff and the committee feels comfortable are ones in policy.
Yes. Excellent. So I'm introducing to the board today Tech Ridge Phase 2, which is developed by a new partner, Embry. Tech Ridge Phase 2 will be at 1120 West Howard Lane. And so that is east of 35 with Parmer and Tech Ridge to the south and Wells Branch Parkway to the north. There is a high-frequency bus stop about 5 minutes away from the site. It is also 0.7 miles from Tech Ridge Park and Ride for those with cars, have the opportunity to use the park and ride system. There is retail along I-35 quite substantially in this area. HB, Walmart, Home Depot, an array of smaller retail establishments, Most of those do probably comfortably require a car to get to, but it is fairly close, and there is bus access. Walnut Creek Metropolitan Park and Pflugerville's Janet Long Fish Park are both about 2.5 miles away in opposite directions. So while this property is within the city limits, it is really just at the border of Pflugerville. And as you may be aware, as Tech Ridge implies, this is an area that's rich in tech employers. Dell, GM, and Samsung all have substantial presences nearby. Next slide. So Tech Ridge Phase 2 is a new construction project. It is slated to be 330 units, 1 through 3 bedroom unit mix. As President Altamirano said, is workforce housing. And we'll talk about the affordability mix here in a moment. While SHFC, I said we don't have a history with them, we do not as SHFC. However, the Travis County PFC did partner with Embry on the Upland, which is nearby, and it is in Lisa. And so the visuals that you see here are of that project.
That project has gone very smoothly. We've enjoyed a very good relationship with Embry throughout the development of this property. They are responsive and they are accommodating, and they answer all of our questions as we went through this process. They're very helpful.
Thank you, sir. So we have a detail of the unit mix here. And in terms of the income level restriction, this is a workforce deal, which is fairly typical insofar as 50% of the units have to be 120% or below, and 10% of the units, I should say 40% at 120, 10% at unrestricted. Those are effectively market rate units. We have 30% of the units which are at 80% and 20% at 60%.
And one thing to clarify in these deals for my colleagues is that they are not bound to charge 120 AMI.
That's accurate.
They are saying they would like to. And so.
And the income of the people occupying units cannot be above that. The market will cap, obviously, what you can charge folks at those levels typically.
And so for those of you that are interested in using our powers in a counter-cyclical way, the optimism displayed in the pro forma at the 120 AMI may not be what occurs in the market. We are simply saying we would be comfortable in the trade that if the market gives you 120 AMI, you may charge that up to that for that 40 category. But as you know, our public benefit calculation lives in a different part, but I always think it's important for us to see it not as, in reality, 40% of those folks are going to be paying 120 AMI. It's that we are allowing, so to speak, as a participant in the event that those rents will clear in the market that develops, that we are comfortable with that. Whether we believe reasonably that that is likely or not is something that all of us will just have to make a decision about when we contemplate these deals.
And just to be clear, and I'll let Braxton confirm or deny here, the rents, which are at those higher income levels, they are effectively market rents. We are not basing these calculations on the expectation of having a rent that is quote-unquote affordable to someone who is higher income than your typical renter. Additionally, I will say that one of the ways that we capture some benefit to rent is that the developers, in this case, have agreed to give at least a 10% discount to the rent, to market rent, for people that are at that 80%.
Yes,
yes. So let's go to the next. So there we go. So this is where I think the sort of rubber hits the road in terms of the analysis and what we're, talking about so much today, which is ensuring that the taxes that are abated over the expected life of this partnership are returned in public benefit through a combination of the rent write-downs, the reduced rents that are delivered, fees that come to SHFC, and some participation in, for example, future cash flow and or at a sale event. And so this table represents anticipated public benefit over a 10-year period of time before they counted any of our bonus points, our priority points for policy initiatives. The score was at 94%. With those, which include architecture, preference for public workers, decarbonization, and service access, it gets close to a score of 100.
Whoever.
So just looking at the line for the annual lease payment, 804,000 estimated over 10 years. In coming to that number, y'all have taken into account what we just discussed, which is that rents might not be as high as the developer might be.
Correct, let me clarify. So the reduced rents, the reduced rents to the tenants is the first line. So that's 5.34 million. The lease payment is the ground lease.
Okay, thanks.
So that's a percentage. So let me then let Braxton speak a little bit to the methodology around how we come to the value, the anticipated value of the reduced rents.
Yes. So as discussed, the unit mix for the Embry or for the Tech Ridge, they're looking at 20% at 60% AMI, 30% at 80% AMI, a 40% at 120% AMI, and then 10% in unrestricted markets. And as Julio stated earlier, that 120 is really a max rental limits, which all these AMI limits are. They can't charge lower, of course, which for those markets at that 120, they will. I mean, it's really infeasible to have 120% AMI level rents at really most places are not like this. We're looking at these. We receive estimated rents from the developer, and I'm looking at confirming they are following adaptations for their 60% estimates and 80% estimates, and then I'm looking at what their market rents in quotations, and then kind of looking at comps around the area as well for bite-sized units within typically a 5-mile radius is what I try to look at to confirm that these are rental assumptions that should be feasible, which they have been for every development we've looked at for strategic so far. And then as Diane mentioned earlier, for the 80% rents, the developer has committed to do at least a 10% discount to those 120 rents that will be charged over the market rates as well. So what we're looking at is we take the rents given against those market rents, and that gives us our 1-year subsidy, and then we increase that 3% annually as industry standard. So we start with the first year, we're looking at just over $600,000 with the rental subsidy rate of the 60s and 80% units, and we're increasing that annually by 3%.
So one of the things in terms of our potential multi-party conversation is agreeing on the bands of modeling. One of the things that Director Weber, since Hilltop is here, because you encouraged it, is the reason we chose this particular partner to partner with is because they are highly regarded and work with a variety of other entities, including SHFC, which is particularly relevant to us. So in terms of the rigor being applied, we have made certain policy choices. There are unique or distinctive, but the overall methodology is sort of, in some ways, the methodology that other entities and HFCs, including sort of our most direct peers, rely on. And I think there's a lot of conversation we have at the real estate committee level about some of these assumptions. Like, there's a big difference between a 3% and a 3.25 once you start doing things, there's a big difference in how you can calculate the sale partnership, et cetera. But the overall model, because it has so many different streams and has so many assumptions that are ultimately fairly vanilla and reasonable, starts to really reduce the risk. And one more thing I will say to my colleagues, and I'm also kind of conveying this to those that may be watching at home, is we have tried very hard to get other entities to put this data publicly so that we appropriately benchmark. We even invited other entities to come and talk to us about how to benchmark, and I recall them not attending. So I'm excited about getting a chance to all of us collectively benchmark. I also recall that in our workforce deals, we have had some that may have been contemplated by other entities, but as a result of our policy, which is clearly articulated in public, that essentially the taxpayers will get $1 of public benefit for $1 of tax abatement. Our staff has been able to encourage changes to the deals as they were considered other bodies. So I feel very good about TechRich 2, given where we are in the whole benefit ratio and about the underlying rigor of our methodology. I think one other thing that the folks watching at home should understand is we have talked, and this is kind of very subtle, about being a counter-cyclical agent, which is in a time where developments may not pencil out, that we want to kind of keep the pedal on the floor. And so if we take a little bit more risk, which means we take a little bit less public benefit ratio, that is okay, because we want to keep putting MI units out there instead of sort of saying, well, the benefits are not there at the level we used to have in the ZIRP, in the zero interest rate policy environment. So too bad, we are saying we have a mission to, in a non-ZIRP landscape, keep pushing out the product, and that may mean slight adjustments. That we can do this and still come so close to the dollar per dollar, I think makes for a very compelling offering. For those that may be watching at home.
Yeah.
Okay?
I have a reaction.
Yes.
So my first reaction is thank you at Hilltop for making sure that we're not padding a public benefit score with a reduced rent amount that's just like not feasible. So thank you for that, explaining that. And then my second reaction is, at some point, we will have done enough of these that we can go back and look and see whether we were right? And that would be very interesting. I don't know when that time will be. I'm interested to hear.
Well, it will certainly be after the first one's operational.
Yes.
Although we did, as you recall, you did approve an acquisition of land in Walnut Creek. But I think you're right, it is something that we will continue to be very interested in, and I think, we're really, to be fair, I think, we'll be looking not only at the public benefit costs, but about our fee schedule. Is this the right approach? Can we get more value out of this for the people that are served? And so I just want to be very clear that we will continually be looking at these terms, but we are working from a term sheet that you spent a fair amount of time coming to with the assistance of the professional consultants.
Portfolio review, whenever we do the portfolio review, it's gonna give us historical data on what we have done and how it's performed.
Yes, but we don't have any workforce deals in that portfolio, right? They're all, yeah.
So one of the things that will be useful for our conversation with the Quadro Party or what have you, they, and some of you, as a member of a facilities corporation, have adopted deals that are workforce-ish. Some of them are our structures in operation today. And so they will be able to give you insight as to the volatility. It's one of the reasons we wanted to have TCHFC come and talk to us, because we modeled our terms after their terms. And so we wanted to understand Ms. Gray, this is something important, which I think is of particular interest to you and to you. We have set our terms to extract financial revenue for us that we reinvest in accordance with our benchmark, which is SHFC. If we wanted to do more programmatic things, whether it's deeper affordability, we end up, after all the discussions, having a very strong preference about our material. We end up having a very strong preference about how we construct. We might have a very strong preference about property management. We may sacrifice, as we achieve scale, some of the financial participation to subsidize that program. And it ties into kind of how we talked about being like the Federal Reserve Board, we revisit our terms over and over on a quarterly or semi-annual basis to make them match the reality on the ground in terms of what the market is doing, what construction costs, the situation around landlords, etc. So we may, in 6 months' time, say, we've got enough data, enough experience, it's time to realign, and potentially say we could want to participate less to expand or push the program. And I think it's very important because as we do more of these, we might want to go deeper or do additional programmatic elements. And so we have things that we're taking right now that we don't have to once we have clarity about our size and diversification across more activities. Any other questions?
One quick question, and this is boots on the ground, so we projected our value increases 3% a year. Boots on the ground, do they, all things are going well, increase every tenant's rent 3% annually? Is that?
I mean, HUD, typically, those rents will vary. I've seen them go up 6%, 8% annually, but I mean, that just depends on just the HUD estimates of incomes for the year.
They do that, okay.
They publish what's allowable, what the rent is at that income level for a particular geography. So our metropolitan, Austin Travis County. And then, so you guys may know better than I do whether the property manager always goes up to that, but it's calculated and.
Remember that picture that Lisa shared with us?
That's what I was bringing up.
Of HUD calculating everybody getting their rent bump. And everybody was getting the rent bump in the middle of the year, and this was in the lease, and the leasing agent, which was Elmington actually, is like the developer partner, not the property manager, but Elmington owned it. Saying, well, it's in your lease actually that when when HUD recalculates, we recalculate. Is your concern that there won't be enough for the lease calculation, or your concern that programmatically you want to smooth that out for the tenants?
More, it was the fact that she and a bunch of other tenants were surprised they had a rent increase. So being new to the board less than a year, I am curious, are they not getting rent increases every year? Why was it surprising? Is it general practice in Austin, Texas that we try not to increase rents for our affordable tenants?
My expectation is that generally speaking, affordable properties would raise the rents as calculated as still affordable to that income level. I think the question about when it happens in the year is a good one, because in the middle of the lease is, for most of us, that's not what we would expect in the market, right? And so I think I don't know the answer to that, I'm happy to.
Any other questions? Seeing none, it would be appropriate to make a motion to adopt. Okay, Director Weber is signing first, making the motion, seconded by.
Second.
All right, Director Becker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Madam carries. And now we are going to our last report statement.
Yes.
And this is actually item H under agenda 10601 from our partners. And I want to point out that our new potential development partners, our friends at Placemaker, are in the audience, which is always appreciated if you will see them. And so we're going to hear the staff presentation, and then they have very, very generously waited so that we may ask them some questions if you have any. Am I saying it right? It's placemaker, not place them, they are. Dr. Grant, take it away.
Excellent. Yes, so, 10601 North Lamar, also known as Placemaker North Lamar, is a workforce project that is west of I-35.
Woo!
Should I say it again?
I'm so happy when we get to this our spatial presence.
So on Lamar, between Grunberg to the south and Breaker to the north. This is an area of proposed Project Connect Orange Line extension. This is fairly close to the project we talked about earlier that is at Grunberg near Lamar. So very rich in terms of transit, lots of retail, etc. I think one of the things that our partners have pointed out here is that it is an area that is dense in public schools, very close by, and public employees. So 3 fire stations very close by. And so again, I think a vibrant neighborhood that will, over time, I think, be well served by connectivity in our community. So this is a new construction project, 332 units, studios, 1 and 2 bedroom. It is a new partnership for us. This is a rendering of the proposed project, which does include ground floor retail. To keep the street lively there along Lamar, and can support a bike trail and bus stop in front of the building as well. Next slide. So this is predominantly 1 bedrooms with a mix of 2 bedroom and studios. The affordability mix is identical to the project we just talked about, and this is often a starting place for workforce deals. Again, 50% at 120 or above, not subsidized typically, but the income is limited for those people who live in those units. And then 50% at 80% or below, including 20% of that, 50% at 60% AMI. Next slide. So in this case, we've done the public benefit analysis on a 15-year timeline. Before bonus points are at 88%, and with those ends up at 93.5 with points for architecture. Would you have everybody show all of the beautiful photos and renderings today, but really appreciated the time the team took to clearly show that they've been very thoughtful about the design of the building. We have, again, I think, established that this is an area that's rich in public workers, and they will have committed to a preference for public workers, in decarbonization and service access.
Any questions for our friends at Placemaker?
You just introduced yourselves to us and tell us what the posts are like for you and our ranking of you, the rating of 93%, our bonus points, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Justin Simon, I'm development who's responsible for this project here.
I'm Chris Cortez. I'm the co-founder and the managing partner of the company.
Yeah, and so far, the experience has been great. I mean, he and his team have been very, and so if they need anything, if there's anything that they have in terms of suggestions, we've been very deliberate to seek those out and, take that into account. So I think so far, there hasn't been any issues in terms of that. Everything has run as smoothly as possible.
And a little bit about us. We're a local developer. We're right down in East Austin, about 7 minutes from here. It wasn't hard work to get here. We have a lot of projects. We're basically a greater Austin development investment company. We have some stuff on Den White. We're building a multifamily right now in the Springdale Goodwin area there. We built some stuff around Shady Lake, so we're very familiar with this area. And then this is a really exciting partnership opportunity.
Question. We don't often get the developers in the room. So are you the contractor? Are you doing the work?
No, we will hire a contractor. Yes.
Have you selected your GC?
We have not formally selected a GC. We've been working with the GC on estimates for the hard cost and anything on that sort, really, on the schedule and hard cost side. So we have not officially awarded the general.
Y'all are doing the one on Shady Lane. Who's the GC there?
We did, that was a mixed-use office retail project on Shady Lane, so that was Versi Chen was the construction partner.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of the other one that's under construction.
Yeah, there's a
now.
couple of multifamilies on that street as
They're
well.
everywhere. You said the good one in Springdale?
Springdale, yeah, Pearl Springdale, there's a couple on Springdale going up, ours is 1010 Springdale, it's called the Pearl Springdale.
Who's your GC there?
Morgan Group?
I mean, do you know who you're bidding this out to? I really care about construction.
Yeah. We've been working with Hudson Construction out of Katy, Texas. We've also talked to Owen Hughes and Jordan Foster as well very early on for just kind of helping us solidify our budget here. So those are the groups that we probably take this out to.
Yeah, we typically work with a pre-development partner, and then when we get to 90% construction drawings, that's when we'll open it up and go to the greater market and get 4-ish contractors to bid it out.
I'm dying to know this, and you may not know. I mean, do you have parameters for GCs that you require? Percent, years in business, they're bonded?
Oh, absolutely.
What parameters do you look for? You require?
Typically, it's their knowledge of the market, their
Past experience.
the team that they can put on the project is very important to us. Super would be the assistant super project manager, the bandwidth, and just making sure they can lock into a GMP that makes sense and there's no overages and we're on the same time.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing for sure is experience with that team, their reputation in Austin. Obviously, if you all know subcontractors are the ones building this, so the relationship that they have with subs, particularly local to Austin, does wonders in terms of like not having cost overruns, not having busts in the schedule. For us, we're trying to stick to a 27-month construction schedule, and in order to do that, we're aligning ourselves with the partner that can get us there.
Okay, those are my questions.
Another question.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for working with us. On your webpage, the Pearl is beautiful. I live near there. Do y'all have other affordable housing developments right now?
Not at the moment. I'm currently working on a 3-story workforce prototype myself. It's one of the verticals we're thinking about entertaining as well. So that's currently at a schematic level right now, but in terms of like affordable projects, this would be our only right now provided now.
Well, thank you for waiting in.
It's something we feel is
Excited.
Yeah, it's a good need.
If you have a question for twins, we're not.
This wasn't. We just kind of showed the office. I was like,
I thought it was like a brand.
We
wear this kind of look.
I should have had it stitched in.
As long as it goes on time. I do want to convey something since you're here, and I think you understand what we're trying to accomplish. Some of us care deeply about making sure that more of our workforce housing is available to our local public sector workers. That's first responders, teachers, civil servants, and so we are going to potentially be, in the time that you're constructing this, but before Lisa, coming back to you with some ideas of how we want to ensure the preference. This is one of the structures that I think might have a lot of demand. And they're, as I said, because they're local public sector workers, we want to serve them. They are solid tenants from a variety of angles, and this is a location that works. So, assuming this passes today, don't be surprised if in the near future we reach out to you and say, all right, we've got a path here to the builder's preference that we think is a good fit for you all, and exciting for everybody involved. But I really appreciate you being here. I know that every minute counts in the business, and so I'm really happy to get to meet our directors, and I'm optimistic this is gonna be a good partnership. Are there any other questions, Director Ryan?
This is sort of a stray question, but in your existing developments, have you ever housed people using Section 8 vouchers?
We have not.
How do you feel about that?
We're receptive to the idea on that side. We haven't solidified like our property manager selection, so obviously that'd be a question that we defer to that group. They would be, we're currently working with Greystar on this one at the moment, but we're obviously open to all suggestions.
So maybe don't be surprised if that develops further too.
Yeah, absolutely, we're
We're kind of in our nation's here in terms of policy development, and so dialogue is everything as we come across this and
We appreciate that as well.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, a motion to approve would be appropriate. Is there a motion? Director Prince, second, Director Weber, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? No. The abstentions, no, the matter passes unanimously. I believe that takes care of transaction presentations. We do have one other conversation to have about Forest Park Apartments and Silver Spring Apartments.
Yes.
Okay, staff, we
Yes.
And our friends from Placemaker, if you wish to be part, I will not personally be offended. Understand, but I do want to.
But I feel like the bookends,
Yeah. We'll be there for the groundbreaking, no question. 27 months.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you, we appreciate it.
All right, the next item on the agenda is to discuss the potential resolution whereby the board would authorize our developer partner Delphi to market their interest in 2 projects that we have. So I'll explain that more fully because I will share with you that I have had to have this transaction or potential transaction explained to me more than once before wrapping up. So go ahead to next. So Silver Springs and Forest Park are 2 projects where Delphi Affordable Housing Group is was the developer and operator. Silver Springs is at 12151 North IH35, 360 units. Forest Park is on Park Plaza, also northeast Austin, 228 units. SHFC issued bonds back in 2013. These were tax credit, 4% tax credit deals. They were acquisitions at that time, so they are projects that were built in the 1990s. But have been maintained by all accounts. I think have a positive relationship and good operating relationship with Delphi over the years. Because they are 4% tax credit projects with a typical affordability spread. They're all affordable at 60% area median income. And we serve as the general partner in the tax credit partnership. We hold title to the land and lease it back to Delphi, which allows us to grant the tax abatement for the project. So that is all context leading up to what brings us here today, which is that Delphi is contemplating wanting to liquidate these assets and what that would mean and what they need from us to do that. So first of all, because these are tax credit properties, although they are a little aged, they still have multiple years left of their affordability requirements. And so even when it changes hands, the rents will continue to be controlled. And so likely, the tax abatement may still be necessary to keep the rents affordable. And therefore, Delphi may be selling its piece of the deal, but likely they are selling it for someone to step into their shoes. And while it's not required, I don't think legally, likely we would stay in place, or we would have a decision to make at that point. It would be the most likely course of events. And so, because we then would be in a partnership with a new partner who would be operating the property, hiring the property management, unless they are self-managing, obviously we have an interest in what that sort of renewed partnership might look like. Delphi, I think, appropriately as a good partner, wants to market their share of this deal, but wants to do that well-informed by the kind of terms that the SHFC is comfortable with. And we have had enough conversation, and we are comfortable with them moving forward to speak to potential buyers, and then come back to us to formalize those terms. Today's proposed resolution is that we would authorize Delphi to move forward to market the properties. We have spent time, and by we, I mostly Keith and Braxton, significant time with Delphi working through a range of potential terms. Feel comfortable that that range of terms gets us where we need to go with a potential new buyer. And we have also shared those terms with real estate committee who are comfortable with them. So because these are real estate transactions and there are future negotiations to be made with unknown buyers at this point, it's not probably appropriate to go deeply into what those terms might look like, but we want to, as a good partner, signal to Delphi and to their potential buyers that we are willing to see this potential transaction move forward and to be in conversation with them as we come to terms potentially with a new buyer.
Thank you. All of you should recall a conversation about this at our December meeting. I know some of us have tried to block out certain, parts of our past meetings so that we could. But we did have a conversation about this specific transaction, and if you may recall, why the partner wanted to exit the partnership, as well as the potential scale of the financial participation on our end. And so what happened since then is we did some math to make sure that what was discussed in December was fair, and the conclusion was, it is fair, all caps, period. We should do this. And now we're at the part where we are going to let our staff continue to do the work of getting this done. It also signals to our partner that we do want to proceed and they can go ahead and do the things that they have told us they want to do. It's publicly posted because it is ultimately an asset that belongs to our part, that belongs to the people of Travis County, and it's an important decision for people to be able to publicly trace. But I feel comfortable with proceeding. Director Money feels comfortable with giving this power. We would have another time to formalize the adoption of the new partnership in terms. But it's very important that we all understand that we're kind of saying today, yes, we're going to feel comfortable with the marketing and the very change in partnership.
And I should have said and didn't. This is likely a months-long process. We're not coming back to you next month, or probably the next.
Is this resolution on?
This is resolution.
Okay, I was doing a resolution.
Pull the board back up.
Director White?
Yeah, just for the benefit of my colleagues, I just want you to know during real estate committee meetings, our president and myself are working with our staff and consultants to closely examine these deals. And I think without going into the weeds, I can tell you that oftentimes we challenge staff, oftentimes we challenge the consultants and we throw out, like, why this? Could we get better? How's this look? And I can say for myself, I'm fairly convinced this is a positive move and a really beneficial move, and it serves our self-interest. And that's after a lot of debate. So, do you want to further elucidate on that?
No, I think you're right. I think that this is if you recall our December discussion, this will significantly affect our ability to engage in a vast program by our standards very quickly. And in some ways is a unexpected stroke of entropy. And those typically have disadvantaged us, and we've had to deal with them. This is the maybe karmic equilibrium resetting. The math is very convincing in terms of the fairness of the transaction and our defensibility of it once it is concluded, both to our players and the public. So I will be voting for this, and I encourage you to vote for this. If there are no other questions?
Everyone.
Yes.
So just making sure I understand what the resolution says, it's authorizing the president, the vice president, the interim director, and then is the secretary and executive secretary Ms. Diana and Ms. Honeycutt?
Just one.
Oh, you're both the secretary and the executive
The
secretary.
secretary.
I think we may have only, I'm not remembering the language of the resolution last month. I'm either executive secretary or secretary, I'm not sure which one.
I would just like to clean up who we're authorizing to include just the executive secretary, and I would have to strike the secretary since we don't have a secretary.
So I think we don't have an executive secretary.
Oh.
So in terms of, let's make a motion to adopt, discussion, amend, remove that piece of language, pass amendment, pass adopted, pass as amended, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes?
So can I move that we adopt?
Yes. Is there a second? Okay, then. Oh, all right, so now we have a motion before us. Would anybody like to make an amendment?
I move that we strike the words executive secretary from section 2 of the resolution.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I second.
Discussion, I think it's a good idea. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we're back to the original motion with the struck language. Any further discussion?
I would just
Director White?
invite those who we brought to the meeting and have any comments on it to comment now, so that the rest of the directors hear their analysis.
My personal opinion is this has been something that's been very thoroughly discussed and analyzed, and while there's not a final structure, this seems incredibly beneficial to the organization. And this is also just a preliminary authorization to allow them some comfort as they start moving forward with the marketing process so they don't waste their time. But you're not bound by anything just by passing this preliminary resolution.
Appreciate that.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. I believe this concludes all of our action items. Before we go to discussion item where we will have to take all the vote, we are going to new and unfinished business. Quickly, is there any additional item that folks want to cover now under new and finished business, decide on for next time or some other?
I would like us formally ask staff to work with tenants to start putting together a proposal for how we're going to distribute it. Is that something we can put on the agenda next month?
Yes, the sub-forum.
We should announce that.
Thank you.
Thank you for
So
coming.
there is a sub-forum, which is Director Wendy and our tenant reps, Ms. Prince and Ms. Reeves, and they are sort of shepherding the policy. And so they are working with the staff, they're gonna come up with a rec. You and I, can form a separate sub-forum and talk about it, but for now, since we're voluntarily following Toma, we're not talking to them in detail.
I just want to make sure it's moving.
Yes.
You know, I said what I need to say earlier, if you guys,
Do you
they've
wanna-
met since we last talked, so either of you.
The subforum met yesterday, we just have very preliminary direction and are just getting a trickle of data in. It's going to be left to the, executive director to really help us get that analysis together so we can bring a recommendation to the board for a policy.
Got it. And the other thing that I hope to see on our agenda is asking staff to hire lawyer to do the look back about Rosemont that I've been sort of bringing up for a while. And so would that be appropriate to place on the agenda in the next couple of months?
As the chair of SPA or yes, no, Governance Finance Administration.
Yes.
SPA is a basketball player, and I keep calling GFA SPA. You know who he is, all right. So SPA is a basketball player, big deal. But for some reason, I keep calling GFA SPA, and glad so we would enjoy that. All right, so GFA, which you are the chair of, will work with staff to tell us when you are ready to, and you've got a thing that you want us to discuss or do.
Yes, and just to fill in everyone else, the government finance committee did meet, and I proposed to Keisha that we hire a lawyer at an hourly rate to write the definitive history of what happened with Rosemont for the purposes of knowing what we're going to be apologizing for the purposes of making sure that we have policies in place that will prevent a future Rosemont, and we're thinking about really holding people accountable for doing poor work for us. And I believe the tenants are on board, and so we will present that to the board.
And then do fashion a resolution, we will adopt it, and then we'll have a meeting that gets implemented. And we as the ex-com at some point make a decision of this month or that month, and so can we talk to you about that? But that is basically how we want to make sure that the committees are empowered to work with the staff without us having to be engaged either prescriptive or in a meddling way. So that is, I think, what will happen. So it's you are the rudder and the engine on that. We are simply the boards or directors. Any other unfinished business on that? No. So we are going to have a discussion item and need to go into executive session. And so I need to actually say we're going to go into executive session. For the public and those at home, we are not going to take any business upon return. We're simply going to adjourn. So.
President Alvarado.
Yes.
Since this is my first executive session.
Yes.
Can I ask you the courtesy of clarifying which staff
that is
like in the room?
Oh, Director Gray. Before we go into executive session, I just want to make sure I know which staff you would like to have in the room.
I think that we need not keep them, although I guess we have to stay some of this clean up anyway. Do we record typically executive session?
We don't.
Okay, then I would say the rest of the staff can take a break. Take a snack with you while you take a break, and we will see y'all in a little bit.
Okay.
And if any of you, Debbie has
I need to make a motion and then state what.
Yeah, so the board would now like to go into executive session under pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551071 for consultation with our attorney on legal matters. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So there's a motion. I'll be second.
Second. Motion, second. All those in favor? Aye. We are in executive session.